This story is about Doogie, a gamer who makes other streamers cower in fear with his insane skills. He used to be a top-ranked DPS player in RPGs, and held the top spot during his prime. After conquering many games, his eyes are now on the surreal game called Ferreris, which is currently considered unbeatable, and our guy is determined to conquer it. Therefore, Doogie has entered the gaming world of Ferreris and used his usual nickname as Wet Towel. After entering his name, a computerized beautiful woman appears in front of him, while complimenting how fitting the name Wet Towel is for him. Now, he's required to watch a simple tutorial, which he skips immediately, as if expecting this option to pop up. The reason behind his skipping the tutorial is that he doesn't like to watch tutorials in games to know about the game beforehand. It's better to just delve in and explore the unknown water like a true warrior in the gaming world. After skipping the tutorial, our player has the bizarre achievement of the century that he's the #1 guy who pressed the skip button faster than anyone else. The game then starts teleporting him towards another tutorial, and as soon as he takes his first step into the tutorial village, his soon-to-be mentor, Damien Fitch, shows up to tell him what he's supposed to do in the game. But before poor Damien can even utter a word about the mission, our ever-impatient MC slams the skip button again. Naturally, the game congratulates him on breaking his own record in skipping. Meanwhile, another NPC knight is nervously urging him to check out this tutorial, which is something about beginner-level equipment. Although our boy takes the equipment and gets himself suited, he hits the skip button again and does not even give this poor guy a chance to speak. This time, though, the game is absolutely furious, as he has refused to even acknowledge their effort since he managed to skip the request before the button even appeared. Not gonna lie, this is one of the most tired people I've ever seen. He is so worn out by life that he does not even read funny posts unless they're summarized in just 3 lines. At that very moment, the knight starts coughing up blood, instantly snapping Doogie into combat mode. After getting scared witless, he even thinks that maybe watching the tutorial wouldn't have been such a bad idea. A horde of monsters comes rushing at him, and he can't help but wonder how lazy the game's creator must be, as these monsters are nothing but copy-paste duplicates of each other. Nonetheless, he swings his sword and parries their attacks, and in the next moment, he severs all the monsters' heads with a single slash. As soon as they're dead, another monster pops up, and what does our guy do? Yep, he skips again. He's internally groaning at this point, wondering if this is going to be one of those cliché games where he is going to die as soon as the tutorial is over. After his latest skip, even the game itself seems to regret ever adding the skip button, practically weeping as it informs him of yet another unlocked achievement. Another monster attacks him unexpectedly, and he dodges it right away. He is annoyed how the game is trying its best to kill him, just so he can play another tutorial. He then unleashes his pent-up rage on the poor AI monster, as if it personally had a hand in the game's development. Even after fighting for so long, the monster is not dead yet, and he starts to wonder when this thing will finally die. Suddenly, his sword hits something, and it's actually the skip button. At this point, the game seems to give up, deciding that this player is truly worthy of the prestigious title as the Skip Warrior. To reward his efforts, it grants him a hidden class with the same title and skills that match his achievements of skipping things. Now, staring at the system screen in dread, he realizes there's actually something like this hidden class in the game. But wait, he wanted to be an archer. He yells at the system, demanding it cancel the whole thing. The system, with zero sympathy, calmly explains that the hidden class is account-bound and can't be changed. It finally dawns on him just how colossal his mistake was. He's yelling at the system like it'll somehow care, but as the tutorial is over, and he's transported back to the village. Therefore, he's beyond disappointed with this whole Skip Warrior fiasco. Not only this, deep down, he kind of despises the hidden class. You see, hidden classes are so obscured that you can't find any info about strategies to defeat monsters, which makes it difficult to level up. For example, it's like picking a super rare job, like being a dragon tamer. The problem is that hardly anyone else is a dragon tamer, so you can't easily trade tips, share knowledge, or even find the special equipment you need for the job. Meanwhile, people from Korea love sticking to the main professions like archer, mage, healer, and warrior. Now he's sulking in the corner of the beginner's village, thinking about how much he despises close-range characters. In his mind, they're all bulky, brainless, and built for brawling, opposite to his ADC championship. He absolutely does not want to be a melee character. But, well, it's time to face the consequences, so he clicks the job button. His job description pops up in which, apparently, he can skip many situations, except for combat and key decision points. After checking his skill, he realizes with growing dread that he has only one skill, which is called Skip. Determined to learn more about this tragic turn of events, he reads further. Turns out his special ability lets him skip long descriptions and repetitive actions. The downside is that once he skips something, there's no going back. He is not feeling up to playing this game after reading that. His lost and defeated expression even has the spectators cracking up at his misery. Before he can sink deeper into his gamer despair, another problem appears in a stream sniper. This said sniper successfully takes his screenshot with latest technology. To see him, our depressed hero unsheathed his sword and warned him to leave him alone as he was not broadcasting now. For those who don't know, a stream sniper is basically someone who takes advantage of another player's strategy by peeping on them online and disrupt their gameplay. People have mixed opinions about this sniping thing. Some think it's funny if done in moderation, but most streamers don't like to be disrupted. Meanwhile, our player is extra miserable, whining while thinking about how he earned the #1 position of most sniped player. On the other hand, the sniper is truly impressed that even though our boy just started playing his game, he looks as if he has already gotten used to it. Before the sniper can ask anything, Doogie makes the classic excuse of not feeling well and runs away. He even asks the sniper not to share his location, but the sniper has no intention of doing so because he suddenly realizes he can learn a thing or two from the ADC champion. To see him sniping on wet towel, people start trolling him for his sniping, which makes him feel humiliated. To counter the insult, he challenges our player before logging out. After the sniper left, our dude realizes with dread as he remembers the comments from his viewers who called him boring after learning about his status as ADC champion. He then realizes that standing around like this could cost him his subscribers, so he's determined to do something to prove he's worthy of a melee character as well. He's now on a mission to attract more viewers by flexing that hidden class of his. To make it happen, he starts the livestream because it's do or die at this point. Later, he decides to check his skills. To clear out the junk and focus, he tries to skip the situation. But to his bafflement, he finds himself stuck in the exact same scenario, with the system informing him that this situation is unskippable. So, like a madman, he's trying to use his skip skill numerous times. However, the curse of a skilled warrior is that just as his skill usage instructions are about to load, he says, skip, and surprise is that the instructions get skipped. He's petrified to realize he's skipped yet another tutorial about his skills. To rub salt in the wound, the system informs him that he can't access the skill explanation anymore. Now he's beyond furious and tries to kill the system itself, wildly slashing at it with his sword. He keeps repeating the attack without even realizing it. As a result, he gains another achievement as he's acquired a skill called Rapid Slash. Besides, by trying to slash the system, he's already reached the maximum level. Moreover, he also gets some bonus stats. Suddenly, he notices his sword getting much lighter because of his skills, which brightens his mood. He now finally understands to some extent how his skipping skill works, and decides to be more cautious about saying skip, especially now that the 8th demon seal has been broken. During his monologue, the system counts that he said skip 3 times, which makes him wonder whether he had skipped something again. The very next moment, he instantly senses something and turns to it. Then, a flood begins in the river while his viewers are excited to see the event unfolding in front of them. Without a clue, our player realizes something big is about to happen, which is caused by him or his skip skill. Then, he starts shivering, partly because of the weather, and even compliments the developers for making it feel so real. At that very moment, he faces a sea monster, shocking him to the core, because it shouldn't be in freshwater. And this sea monster is making a high jump toward him and seems like it's about to explain something to our dude. But, as usual, the skip warrior skips it. He gets the gist of the story as the octopus was trying to tell him it was locked up by the previous hero, in which Doogie doesn't have any interest. Sword in hand, he starts cutting through its tentacles, taking on the boss monster like a pro he is. After slicing the octopus cleanly, he flashes a smug grin to his viewers, because he's totally convinced he's going to get first place this time again. After getting his first success, he thinks that the skipping isn't so bad. While eyeing the massive octopus, he suddenly craves some takoyaki. But then, the system pipes up, reminding him he'd used the skip skill again. He's now utterly confused, as there's literally nothing to even skip. As he eyes the massive octopus in confusion, the system hands him a box of ready-made takoyaki while giving him another bizarre title of the novice chef. Right at that moment, a notification pops up about the son of Kraken, who's absolutely fuming over his mother's untimely demise. But our guy is completely unfazed by this news. He scoffs at the warning and straight up challenges the son of the monster. Like it's reading his thoughts, the system immediately summons the son of Kraken. He looks at the river with anticipation, but nothing comes out. Since nothing shows up, he just keeps enjoying his takoyaki. Naturally, the skip button pops up as an option. After savoring another bite, he presses the button 2 times, and the Sun Kraken emerges, who is quite furious, with red eyes blazing and tentacles swirling with rage. Our hero is completely stupefied, and forget to take another bite. He glances at the takoyaki and thinks that this might contain his mom's energy. Meanwhile, Sun Kraken is lost while remembering about the time he declared his dream of becoming as magnificent Kraken as his mother. She encouraged him, and now he's whining and crying, thinking about that moment. Meanwhile, our player comes out of his stupefied state and is shocked to see the cute little octopus burning with anger. The Kraken tries to say something, but again our impatient warrior skips its rant. This infuriates it even more, which has caused a flood in the river. He looks around the town, which is now drowned in the flood, and reasons that it's just part of the story, not because he has a talent for skipping everything and making tiny little octopuses angry. Then the infuriated son of the Kraken starts to attack him with its tentacles. At this moment, Doogie is at a loss on how to save himself and instinctively utters, "Skip." Surprisingly, it works as he manages to dodge the attack. For a while, things continue like this, with our skip master swinging at full speed to save himself from the enraged sea monster, while the said monster keeps shooting at him. Frustrated, he wonders whether he did something bad in a past life to deserve this awful luck. However, after getting tired of this game, he is determined to cut the little sea creature and tries to use his slashing max skill on it. As usual, his bad luck intervenes and he can't use the skill because he needs to acquire an underwater skill for attacking underwater. He looks at the swarm of attacks and doesn't understand what trick or weapon he should use to defend himself as he has only basic equipment. Then, the idea strikes him to attack the octopus while using his swimming skill. He dodges the attack and gets a little closer to the Kraken for a precise hit. After doing this, he gains the experience of attacking underwater. But his stunt backfires because the Kraken is whirling the water while making him feel sick. Somehow, he manages to grab the Kraken. At that same moment, his system tells him he has used the skip skill again. Consequently, he is now swirling along with the octopus. However, the system has mercy on him and gives him another reward skill called Intimacy Gauge Max, which leads the octopus to bond with him as his son. Then he realizes this was the skill he was meant to acquire. Overall, after defeating the sea monster with intimacy, he also earns another bizarre title as Family of the Kraken. Afterwards, the octopus ends the flood and reverses the damage it had caused. People are commenting on how absurdly this game is designed. After looking at the vendors who are also selling weird things, the wet towel finally realizes that it is not him only, but the game and everyone in it are just as mad, including the game itself. He thinks about the views of the people regarding the famous game Ferreris because of its weird but unique setting. One community informs everyone how it is a crazy game and impossible to level up because of its insane hidden class. With a thoughtful expression, he considers that no matter how hard this game is, he might still get into it. However, his thought process is interrupted by the Sun Kraken who is clinging to him, but it reasons that now Doogie is his father. At first he is annoyed, but after looking at its innocent face, he gives up. Then he decides to check on the random card he is going to receive. After clicking on the system, he gets something big wrapped in candy. He waits patiently for it to come out. He continues waiting for the wrapping to be removed, but it's taking too long. He wishes he could skip it. As soon as he says skip, his skill activates, and to his disbelief, there's only a tiny piece of bubblegum inside the grandiose wrapper. He facepalms while realizing how the gaming system seems to be punishing him. At that moment, some knights appear on the scene about to say something. However, the skip master skips the information they were about to convey, which results in him extending the default skip mode. As a consequence of skipping the main information, the knights now ask him whether he's going to accept their request or not. He is dumbfounded again, while realizing he has no idea about the background of the quest he's supposed to choose. Meanwhile, the octopus continues to annoy him, which he has been ignoring while shouting to the knights that they should give a summary of the story in the quest window. Unfazed to his fury, the knights are still waiting for him to make a decision. With his carefree nature, he shrugs off the situation, while thinking that it's just a quest, and so he accepts it. The knights are happy about his acceptance and are about to tell him about the items he will receive, but once again, he skips the crucial information. He looks around and notices that the viewers are no longer there. Nervously, he announces for them to come back if they want to see the quest item he's about to reveal. He retrieves the item from his storage, only to be baffled when he sees that the legendary quest item is turned out to be an onion. He is feeling quite weird seeing the onion as the quest item and doesn't understand the purpose of it. Anyway, he decides to check the reaction of the stream and is baffled by the hundreds of dislikes. Then he turns towards the comments in hopes of getting something positive. The feedback is full of negative comments about how boring his streaming is, and it is not his usual style of wet towel as the ADC player. He then goes into depression, realizing how the melee character isn't earning him the fame he wants. The most important thing is that he himself doesn't understand a thing about melee characters, so how will his viewers get a grip on it, like understanding the logic of a sea monster living in freshwater? Besides, many fans prefer ADC strategies than melee character. After being depressed for a while, he becomes determined to do his best, because no matter what, he is the first to explore this quest in the game. When he stands up to get a hint about the quest, a girl approaches him about something, but once again he skips the conversation, which makes her angry, and she walks off. He doesn't understand why everyone is doing weird things. But the octopus on his waist answers with a cute expression, while saying that it's because he's always being impatient. He nervously responds that this cute little scolding feels so good, which makes the Kraken happy as well. While he's busy talking with his adopted son, the old man approaches him. Seeing him, he guesses the old man might have some information regarding the quest. The old man starts to say something about the Kraken, but he as usually skips that information. Meanwhile, this old man seems to be running towards somewhere, which makes him gasp and hard to talk. Seeing him like this, our skip master again skips the moment. Afterward, the old guy starts to rant about the nutrients of onions and their properties, which makes our guy quite nervous. Then he wonders whether he can skip it and suddenly notices that it's already evening. With dread, he realizes that even with his skip skill, he is still listening to the old man's rant. The old man is ranting about how to choose a good onion. Then he turns to its storage method, which our guy still skips, and now it's night. Afterwards, this grandpa ranting about the octopus and its quality, which enrages our skipping master, who skips it again and again as the old man continues to share random information. Viewers witnessing his dread comment on how the developers made such a weird NPC in the form of that old man. Finally, after a number of skips, the old man hugs our guy like he's consoling him for listening to such a long rant. To listen to his long story, the old man is about to tell him his royal secret as a reward, which Doogie skips again in outrage. Then the old man is going to vanish while thanking him, after he lets out a sigh of relief without noticing that his background has changed. As soon as he raises his head, he is petrified to see the snow around him. At that moment, a snow monster attacks him from behind. Looking at the monster, he wonders whether the transportation is the work of the old man. Then he decides to take down the monster first, but to his bad luck, his sword has finished its durability. After the end of the durability, the item is destroyed, and that happens with his sword. He is confused at first because he hasn't used the sword much, but suddenly he remembers when he swished the sword unnecessarily, which must count as well. Now, looking eye to eye with the monster, both feel awkward at first. Then the monster decides to cut the awkwardness and attacks him. Weaponless, he doesn't understand what to do first. Then the little sea monster on his waist catches his eye. He uses his pseudo-son as a shield as well as a sword, cutting the monster's hand, which hurts the emotion of little octopus as our guy has used him as a shield. Meanwhile, the monster cries in pain. On the other hand, he decides to escape after attacking it again, but suddenly the monster is headless, and he is startled to see it because he didn't do anything. He asks the Kraken whether it was his work, which he cutely declines. At that moment, someone claims that he is the responsible behind it. He looks toward the voice and finds a very shivering player. The player asks that how it feels to have the opportunity seized from him. He makes a face to see the player's attitude, which makes the newcomer angry, and he starts shooting randomly at the monster, while barely missing our main character. He then asks about the identity of that player and his purpose for being there. While narrowing his eyes and glaring, he asks who sent him. His expression frightens the newcomer, and he runs away. After he has run away, our guy wonders whether he was that scary. Meanwhile, his son points out the falling snow, which refreshes their mood, but within a few seconds, it is revealed that this snowing is actually an avalanche again caused by our dude. Therefore, this refreshed mood turns literally cold when they are half buried in the snow caused by the avalanche without any protection from the cold. His system warns him that he is going to face the status abnormality because of the sudden temperature change. He thinks while shivering how this virtual reality feels so much more real because of the cold he is feeling now. He thinks that he is going to lose it, but Kraken interjects as it is who is going to lose while turning into blue because of the cold. Unfazed by its state, our guy then happily tells him he is going to use him as a shield again, besides suggesting it to do it in a better way next time. At this moment, he finally notices the change in its color and asks about it. It replies that it is because of the cold it is feeling. Now he turns serious and thinks about the status abnormalities while deciding to do something about it. He looks around for supplies and finds only thin tree branches. Then he decides to light a fire with his help, as he finally manages to read a 3-line summary of the method for lighting a fire. Now he knows that he doesn't have anything else to ignite a fire, but he hopes that he will make it possible with his skip skill. For a while, he is trying hard to ignite the fire and uses the skip skill continuously. Slowly, the atmosphere is getting warm, and the snow around them starts to melt. Afterwards, the warm atmosphere turns hot, and the snow melts over a larger area. He gets a warning that his actions are making the ruler of the snow mountain angry. However, he is claimed to be unfazed by anyone's anger anymore because all he wants is to have some fire to combat the cold. The fire finally ignites, which makes the so-called Kraken quite happy and warms the area around them. Go see the snow melt. The ruler of the mountain himself feels startled to see the ground earlier than expected. Now, it looks at our player and shouts for him to stop. On the other hand, our dude is quite unfazed by the voice and wishes he might have ignited the fire a little earlier while the ground around him is burning. Suddenly, the Kraken points out the change in the terrain style around them, which is shown because of the snow melting. Not only this, our lucky player unknowingly awakens a number of skills due to his action of igniting the fire and repeating his skip skill. These skills include fire ignition, which turns into the arson skill now. He also gets the information regarding the flood in the lower village caused by him, which he royally ignores. He wonders why this game doesn't have a middle ground. To answer his question, his cute little son tries to explain that he himself doesn't have a middle ground and mess things up. He says with relief that still no one is harmed, and this is enough. Meanwhile, in the lower mountain village, players are drowned because of the flood. On the other hand, our hero is pondering his skip skill, as he can skip many situations that normal users can't. So he decides to use this skill for staking. He then turns to his viewers and asks them for feedback, likes, and subscriptions. At that moment, suddenly the same boss monster appears in the air. Instead of being scared, our dude bravely opens its mouth and checks the quest item inside it. He thinks it must be him because he is using the skip skill unknowingly while pondering over his skip skill. Then he challenges the monster to use its dragon breath in order to provoke it, which ignites its anger and breaths fire. However, our dude still handles the situation and grips its neck with his legs. Then he starts to beat it furiously because he might fall from the sky because of the monster's stunt. While beating it, he also uses his skip skill multiple times. With that, he gets another skill called Swift Counter, which now turns into Flame Swift Counter because of his repeated action. With his constant beating, finally the monster throws him toward the ground. To counter it, he attacks with his new skill of Flame Swift Counter while he is still in the air. After successfully attacking and injuring the monster, he can now use this swift counter with a heated palm. Then he finally rides the monster, and his son can see how he is rushing toward the ground. Afterwards, he has a cool landing on the ground while asking his subscribers whether they enjoyed the fight and pointed out that it was easy though. He starts to laugh menacingly, but his laugh stops when he spots the monster standing once again. He comments that it is alive because it is the boss, but it should be dead with a good camera angle. Then he looks at the innocent face of the monster and confirms that it is someone for which they have come here. Finally, he burns it with his arson skill in order to end the quest. After a while, the monster melts down, leaving an ice flower in its place. He guesses that it might be the quest item and thinks with annoyance how all games are the same, when he looks back and ponders which way he should go. First, he considers taking the lower path with a good camera angle, but he worries his viewers might get bored with this typical route. Then he thinks about a comfortable way to get back. Suddenly, his solution comes in the form of a skip skill, and he immediately presses the button. With this latest skip, he suddenly sees knights before him, one of whom has his ice flower and suggests how to take care of the next mission and items. Besides, they also mention finding the secrets of the kingdom's items, which begins something new. Now he is first baffled by their purpose for being there. Then he shouts at them how they should at least tell him that it is a linked quest, but they don't listen to him and leave. At that, he shouts with frustration about how he is going to do the next quest. Somewhere else, someone is watching his stream with a nervous expression. This is another rising streamer with beauty and brains. While looking at his stream, she wonders whether he is a good editor or a good player. She even compliments him for catching both the Kraken and the Ice Demon before anyone else. Then she looks at the grim face of the #1 ADC player and plans to meet with him naturally as she knows the location of him now. After a while, he goes to the town with a tired expression because he can't just use skip skills to cover the distance. He is also frustrated at the game not explaining anything about its system, while forgetting his own mistake of skipping tutorials. Then he looks at the people outside the village who have just faced the flood and wonders why they look like they have fought a war. Afterward, he spots some people gathered around something or someone. He looks closely and finds it's a woman whom everyone is showering with gifts and money. She tries to pretend, with a huge smile on her face, that she's just passing by and expresses her amazement at how they managed to find her. While accepting the gifts and money from her admirers, she adds with a smile that she will surely accept their gifts and return them later. This woman is none other than Sun Oh-kyung. She is a newcomer ADC player who is growing rapidly because of her skill and outstanding, beautiful looks. That's why he also subscribes her. While looking closely, he realizes what exactly she is doing. With a red hue on his face, he looks away because he is working hard to increase his viewers, while she stands there receiving gifts without much efforts. His son of Kraken reminds him that he is behind the fire and flood. However, his mind is occupied by the unfair treatment from viewers toward him and her because of her beauty, so he goes ahead to complete a quest to distract himself from the bitterness. But she doesn't plan to let him go silently, so she rushes to him and pretends to be happy to see him there. She first stops to notice his gloomy expression, then shakes it off and asks why he isn't playing the ADC character since he is without the bow. He fumbles that he is going to work on his achievement. But the clever girl interjects by saying that if he is not playing as ADC, then he should introduce her channel to his subscribers, who might not be interested in his content now. With fury, he now understands her intention for calling him. On the other hand, she shamelessly asks for collaboration as well, but he ignores her and goes in another direction since he is busy. With a grumpy expression, he is determined to unsubscribe from her when he has time. Meanwhile, his nonchalant attitude and blatant rejection of her offer infuriates her beyond measure. With anger, she exclaims that even though he thinks himself something big, but their audience will soon see that she will find the item, not him. With that, she logs out. After watching her vanish, he doesn't understand why everyone keeps challenging him, especially when they are the ones who have done wrong. On the other hand, Oh-kyung's crazy fans are beyond frustrated to see her log out. Now they all point fingers at our guy, while assuming he did something to her. As confirmation, they are informed about a post in which she tells her fans that she is taking a break because of his bad behavior towards her. Now everyone turns to him with animosity in their eyes, deciding to beat him for his behavior. Meanwhile, our boy is totally clueless about their actions against him and wonders whether he has skipped something again. Anyway, he is ready to defend himself, though he is weaponless. Some of the crazy fans rush at him because he has committed the great sin of offending their beloved Oh-kyung. He tries to reason with them, while explaining that she's just made an excuse to take a break, so they shouldn't start a fight with him. All the while, he attempts to attack them with his arson skill. At that moment, his system updates his arson skill to igniting fire, which is hotter than before. Besides, he also gets a decent sword randomly thrown at him. The fans are challenging him to return their dear Oh-kyung to them, filled with rage. Meanwhile, he is also ready to tackle them now that he has a weapon. He then attacks them with a wild swing, which skill level is at 99. Seeing his badass moves, the viewers change their opinion of him and decide to give him a chance during the stream. With that, all of them run away. Afterward, he spots some knights and worries that he might get arrested because of the recent fight he had, which could ruin his content. Instead, the knights politely greet him, as they were actually looking for him, which brings him relief. He wonders happily what is going on now. At that moment, he sees a skip option, which he happily accepts. Immediately, he is transported into a palace. Before he can understand anything, he sees a chubby, gluttonous king sitting on a large throne, while thanking him for saving their country. The king also adds that he has obtained the ice flower after defeating the ice dragon, which proves his potential to be a great warrior. To sense his expression, the king requests him to say something, as he shouldn't be the only one carrying the conversation, while ignorant of the creepy feeling our dude is having upon seeing him. However, his question makes our player happy, and he immediately asks about the onion which he had received. Seeing this, the king smiles and responds that it is the heart of the warrior. According to them, the onion is similar in both shape and metaphorical meaning to the heart of a warrior. It symbolizes the effort of the previous warrior, and its layers represent the trials heroes usually go through. With a terrified expression, he thinks about how absurd this long explanation is. With that, he decides to skip it. Afterwards, a chest is brought in front of him, in which the king claims to have a reward for him in the form of gold. The mere mention of gold makes our greedy hero's mouth water, and he immediately asks about the quantity of the gold. But the king is quite clever, so he points out that our dude happens to be in every area that has recently flooded. He remembers the floods and nervously explains that they occurred while he was completing the task, because such damage happens during quests like this. The king laughs at his explanation and he feels relieved. He then instantly tries to open the box, but one of the officials points out that they need to calculate the damage caused by the floods. At that, Doogie insists that he must check the gold first, but the official also wants to calculate first. They argue for a while, but when skipped, Master realizes the officer is going to read the whole contract. He dreads it and decides to skip it. After the skipped part, the officer finally concludes that since our skipping master has a mountain of debt, as the remaining damage will be named after him after confiscating the chest of gold, which makes the king laugh and agree. At that, he is baffled by how much debt he has, especially since they have already confiscated the box of gold. After wrapping this up, the king generously tells him that he doesn't need to pay any money, as he has some requests for him in the future. However, our guy insists on paying while dramatically waving the onion. He points out that it must be expensive while being the heart of a hero, so they should keep it. The king shrugs off his offer while saying it's a gift and he should keep it. Afterward, as expected by someone of the status of king, he throws him out of the palace as everything that needed to be said has been said. This prompts a protest from our guy, but who listens to a common man? After a while, he finds himself thrown into the sand. The way the events are unfolding makes him even angrier at the game, which doesn't even have a slave genre to drown him in debt, which riles him up further. He then looks at the onion and angrily throws it, as it's the only reward he's gotten after all his hard work. While throwing the onion, he sarcastically declares he's doing it in the name of the Skip Warrior. But as soon as he utters skip, the skill activates. As the onion hits the ground, it transforms into a sword. His system taunts him, remarking that the onion is growing because of his criticism. In other words, the onion has taken his criticism to heart and decided to be useful by transforming itself into a sword. He looks at the system, which tells him that the onion is growing rapidly. With an annoying expression, he thinks that anything can happen in this game. Now, the meager onion turns into the legendary weapon called as Hero's Heart, which durability is infinite, and its power matches its wielder's power. The downside is he can use it for just 1 minute. He then picks up the weapon and thinks about how awful it will feel to be hit by something like this. His son interjects that no matter the weapon, being hit is always a bad thing. With that, he hits on this little octopus's head while warning about how he should teach him a lesson because of his constant complaining. Besides, he is planning to use him for weapon test. Meanwhile, someone interjects while offering his help to him. He claims to be a nameless knight with level 65 and wants to spar someone as great as Wet Towel. The said Wet Towel is shocked to see that a level 65 character is approaching him, as they can't be minor characters. Then this knight challenges him to a sword fight, which he accepts gladly even though he doesn't know why he's there. With the speed of lightning, that person initiates the attack, which is blocked by our MC with his onion sword. He is surprised to see his counterattack with a sword of onion, which is useful now. While fighting with the knight, he notices other characteristics of the sword, like its lightweight, good sense of impact, and firm grip. More importantly, it has infinite durability, which enables him to attack with his skip skill. Now he can attack with all his might. However, even after a minute, the knight stands undamaged. On the other hand, he is shocked to see that his onion sword needs rest to recover, as it has already been a minute. He shouts in frustration while feeling cheated by this loophole. Meanwhile, the knight has sheathed his sword and gives him feedback that he needs basic training, which makes him feel less competent than the previous warrior. This irritates our player, especially when a side character insults him like this. Then, the knight is about to leave, while giving him information about the next boss, whose location is the strange swamp. He even praises the previous warrior and seems like he is previous hero's apprentice. He is going to leave while ranting about the ramen and broth. But before going ahead, he thinks that there is no way our dude has enough skill to defeat the upcoming bosses. Suddenly, the knight is on his knees, coughing blood, because apparently our guy thinks he has had enough of this insult and gives the knight an internal injury. When he turns out, the hero is fuming with anger, whining and cursing the arrogance of the knight. So this is the story of our guy who goes into depression after the knight leaves. He then thinks about the messed up things he now needs to tidy up. At this rate, he is also afraid of losing more subscribers. He thinks about all of the troll comments he will get after his shameful defeat by the knights. Then he ponders over the information the knight has given him, which makes him an important character in the storyline. He concludes that the king must be in need of the next warrior, which means a slave in other words. Besides, he doesn't have much of anything besides the onion sword, which is kind of useless. In other words, no matter how he looks at it, he will definitely lose. At that moment, the Kraken chimes in while saying it doesn't matter if they lose sometimes, which riles our dude up. However, he lets go of the matter, as there's no need to be grumpy about something he can't control. Then the Kraken suggests he go to the strange swamp, as per the knight's suggestion. Suddenly, a skip button appears like a bad omen. He doesn't understand the strategy of the game in showing him this button randomly. It makes him mad, and he punches it with all of his frustration. As a result, their location changes, and now they are in front of a field that stinks. His system informs him that now, with the effect of the skip skill, his move quest has been completed, which resulted in him moving to the strange swamp. For a moment he ponders over this news, shouting while looking at the rice field in front of him, as he should be at the swamp because of his move quest. The Kraken points out that the field feels like a mud flat. It yells at him that there is only dampness, which makes it similar to the swamp. However, when the Kraken points out that the water here feels squishy, he stops his rant to listen. The both of them finally realize that it is indeed a swamp. The small Kraken is being pulled by something in the swamp, and he immediately tries to pull it back. Even in this situation, our dude suggests about what would happen if he cut off one of its tentacles and it would grow back. The Kraken remarks about his senseless joke with dread and anger, while stating that he is not a lizard. He is now left with no choice but to use this skip skill. With that, the Kraken is in the air, followed by the big toad. He guesses that it must be the boss monster. At the same time, his repeated action earns him a skill called the fishing skill. He also gets the achievement that he caught this boss monster at his first fishing attempt. He laughs smugly at this achievement. Afterwards, the toad decides it is a good time to bathe our guy with acid, which he barely dodges. After recognizing the acid, he knows he has no choice but to use the onion durability attribute, which is more than useless, like a half-baked meal. After using his skip skill, he is ready to slash the boss monster with the onion in one hand and the octopus in the other. So let's see how his viewers react to him like this in his stream. Most of them troll him for using food in a fight, as if he is making octopus soup. Some wonder where his strategy has gone. They even give him the title of the worst chef. Don't forget about the king, who looks like a sweet potato. On the other hand, our novice chef of a hero plans to make a soda out of the boss monster. Then he is going to beat him to boost his views. However, suddenly his eyes blur because he gets acid in his face. He cringes at the dirtiness of the spit, and now his mind is only racing around what his viewers will like or not, and he knows they won't like this incident. Then he looks at the toad and wonders why its body is turning red. On the other side, the pungent smell released by the onion backfires on him, as it increases the anger of the toad monster. Therefore, it is going into the second phase. But our player is still unfazed by the new threat and keeps hitting the toad with his own enhanced form of anger, which finally knocks it down. He now stands there, a withered onion sword in one hand and bathed in glory like a dumped cat or wet towel. His system informs him that he is going to get 2 reward cards as a reward for defeating the awakened toad boss monster with his onion sword. Afterwards, he gets a long list of information that makes him angry. He shouts about how the system can't just give him 3 lines of summary. It feels like the game has listened to his call, and immediately he receives the 3-line summary of the information. The summary is that he must uncover the secrets of the kingdom if he wants to be a hero after defeating the hidden boss. Not only this, he has also acquired a new skill that allows him to get a 3-line summary of anything. This new information leaves him totally baffled, as he didn't know the game could do something like this. Afterwards, a very bright light fell on him with the information that his level restrictions have been lifted. Therefore, he reaches level 30. Our dude, who is about to make a grand gesture while reading the first instructions, stops to observe the behavior of the game as it does what it wants to do. Besides, he doesn't like his level either. The Kraken annoyingly points out that he is greedy, as he isn't satisfied with level 30 for the things he has done. He tries to explain that how much hard work he put into defeating each of the monsters because he needs more experience than other player because of his job requirement. So the performance is good, but he is not satisfied with this level. At that, the Kraken asks about the connection between the level and his good performance. He responds with a disappointed expression, while saying that it hurts his pride to have such a low level, which makes the little octopus quite annoyed with its dad's antics. Suddenly he stops as he feels the ground moving up. His system informs him that they are moving to the hidden dungeon, as the hidden location of the swamp has been cleared. He looks at the field in front of him, which hasn't changed at all. To his feeling of déjà vu, he again gets the skip button, the purpose of which he still doesn't know, but he doesn't resist pressing it, even while being grumpy. As he does so, many villagers come to cheer for him as the kingdom's new hero. They cheer for him, praising how he has defeated the toad, which helped them get back their land. They bow to him while the system informs him that he could get the favor from them for the favor he has done for them. This makes our dude quite cocky, who slyly tries to shake off their gratitude at first. Then he states that he is going to come to them for a favor because he can't deny their sincerity. After understanding his real intention, the villagers murmur about how he is going to use them in the future. However, our player listens to them, which makes them apologize to their savior. He shakes off their apologies and asks them what he is going to do next. This question leaves them lost of words. At the same moment, the system shows him the skip button, and he vigorously presses it again, because he can't resist it. As soon as he presses it, they are all alone again. He wonders why the villagers went away without telling him anything. While he is pondering this, someone attacks him from behind, which he dodges just in time before he becomes pulp. There is a fat goon who looks quite furious and calls our hero someone who smells like onion, which kind of fits him. After observing the behavior of this new villain, our expert player concludes he must be the mercenary NPC. The mercenary is quite furious because he has been trying to hunt the boss monster for 10 years, and our player has messed up his effort. While both of them insult each other, calling names, the mercenary attacks our boy, who dodges his every move. Doogie uses the skip skill to let the onion recharge. However, it still has 20 seconds left to recharge fully, which makes the player quite furious at the useless onion. The mercenary attacks him again while taunting him about how useless he is and didn't even have a proper weapon. He even exclaims that he defeated the toad purely by luck, which will end here. He even claims that no one can be saved after being hit with his saliva skill, which makes our guy smile with smugness. As he sees the enemy's weapon rushing towards him, he blocks the attack with his fireworks slap. Seeing this, the villain smiles evilly, while realizing that finally, our hero has some skill up his sleeve. He transforms into his enhanced form, while sporting the body of a flashy wrestler. This villain then claims that he is going to show our hero his real power as the 213th leader of his guild. This claim makes our hero laugh, who is mocking at the fact that this guy is the lowest member of his guild. He gets ready with his enhanced arsenal skill while making fun of the villain's name. This infuriates the mercenary, who declares he won't give our dude an opening. But our hero is determined to burn him up with his skill. However, bad luck strikes our player, because as soon as he touches the opponent's body to attack, nothing happens. It is revealed that he doesn't have enough mana to use his skill. Now it comes to his last option, which is to fight with his adopted son. However, the said son doesn't want to do it because of his hate for squishy things. Before the mercenary can kill him with a punch or he has to use the little octopus to fight, his onion sword decides to be useful for a while and blocks the enemy's attack. This infuriates his opponent even more, leading him to attack with greater force. The dude starts to run away with a laugh while thinking that if this is the number 213 leader, so it will be child's play to defeat him as the number 1 veteran streamer. Then, with one slash of his sword, he finally cuts the fat meat of the mercenary in two. This bizarre act earns him the animosity of the diet-obsessed players whose number 213 leader he has killed. Not only that, he has achieved something truly bizarre, which is an achievement that will attract animosity from everyone in the game. His grand posture freezes after hearing this. He yells how this system could be this childish to annoy him when his rival like Sun Oh-kyung is enough to do that. Octopus states that it is him who is strange. Anyway, now our strange hero turns to the things he gets after defeating the mercenary. It is a squashy-looking thing that is despised by our cute little octopus besides a rock. Doogie retorts that it hates the onion as well. Then he turns to the information his system contains about this thing. This thing is called very sticky saliva, which is a kind of very strong poison that ruins the things it touches. After knowing this, our MC has a very evil expression on his face while thinking of selling it to pay his debt. The scene shifts to the streaming of Sun Oh-kyung, who is fighting with numbers of monkey that will respawn in this particular location. The clever girl chooses the perfect location to ambush the monsters in order to level up. She sets the trap to kill the monster and turns to its companions, killing them all with the auto hunt. After completing her task, she pretends to look tired because she stands in the same spot for a longer time. As a result, she is now level 150, having leveled up twice in the last 10 hours. On the other hand, while looking at her stream, our dude is quite cross about her finding a cheating spot and making content about it. He is determined to unfollow her, but then he looks at her cute pose and starts drooling over her. So he has changed his mind about unsubscribing her. To see his expression, his son protests about how he is drooling over her instead of finding a buyer for the very sticky saliva. At that, he answers that no one is willing to buy, even in the auction. With frustration, he decides to throw it to the king in order to reduce his debt. The little octopus also likes this idea and comments on how he is getting some nice thoughts now. While pulling its cheek, he informs it that now it is time to check his stats. Kraken asks whether he is going to raise strength stats as a melee character. He then informs his little son about the stats in this game, as they usually revolve around strength for physical warriors and intelligence for mages. Besides, there are also stats like agility, speed, and durability, etc. Basically, the gamer focuses more on raising these two kinds of stats, even in a virtual game, while building their character. But this bizarre guy decides to use it for his wisdom. With that, he bets all of his stat points to raise his wisdom with great posture. Afterwards, his mana also increases to 25,000 points. To see this development, Kraken is not happy, as he has used all of his points for mana, which is not going to make him number 1. To see him repeat the same line 2 times, he is kind of giddy, while expecting such a crazy reaction from his fans. He adds that this game is all about skill, and he can't gain skill through strength points because of his useless weapon in the form of an onion, and he can cheat with the MCT points. Moreover, this speedy concept will help him raise his mana points, which will be helpful to use high-level skill in a fight. With a laugh, he is happy to drive his aggro crazy, while annoys Oh Kyung after obtaining the title such as the All-Wisdom Warrior. While tossing the stone in his hand, he daydreams about how he is going to show his strength as the All-Wisdom Warrior while fighting against some guy who is going to challenge him, like that fat mercenary. He wonders if there will be anyone willing to pick a fight. To see him distracted, Kraken scolds him to stop playing with the stone. With a scoff on his face, he checks whether the stone is useful. Instead, it's just a regular dry stone. Upon learning this, he states that he was just playing with it because of its firm grip and then tosses it away quickly, which makes Kraken quite happy. Then it asks about their next destination. He looks around and thinks out loud that the game usually shows him the skip button in this situation, but now he doesn't understand the reason behind the piece. As soon as he utters skip, his skill activates. With that, the dry stone he threw into the water pierces from inside. It turns out to be a seed instead of a stone. Seeing the large growing plants in front of him, he comments on how this stone turned out to be a beanstalk from the story of Jack. To see the plant thicker on the inside, Kraken comments that he might have seen it before. Then they get closer to it and look inside, which seems like a very deep well. He even comments that it's like a beanstalk growing downward. The next moment, he jumps inside with joy on his face because it reflects his status as a true gamer. However, after a while, his joy turns to an expression of utter boredom when he realizes that this thing is truly a large beanstalk growing downward. To save him, his son is holding on to him, to whom he consoles that they are just going to reach the bottom. However, after 30 minutes, they is still in the air, and he still insists that they are getting closer to the land. After 1 hour, Kraken tentacles are numb while holding our dude, and he is frustrated to be unable to use the skip skill. Finally, after a while, they land on the land peacefully, thanks to our little octopus, who now looks like a withered balloon. At that, he innocently tries to console him that he should believe him, which the little octopus annoyed to. At this moment, he gets the achievement of finding this hidden dungeon before anyone. He will get a reward after completing the task. With a smug expression, he steps forward as the All-Wisdom Warrior. However, before he can get inside, one of the huge statues of stone start to attack him. But our guy is still calm about this attack because he is starting to stream and hopes to get attention from this new phase of the game from his viewers. He is dodging each of the attacks while counterattacking with the firework slaps, which he can use twice now. After defeating the statue, he exclaims how this is the power of the All-Wisdom Warrior, who raises his mana points. At the next moment, he feels quite awkward because he is talking to himself. Kraken then asks him the reason for talking to himself besides his method of knowing the upcoming status attack. At that, he is embarrassed to say anything first, then explains that it is because there is a statue that doesn't match with another, so it is easy for him as a streamer to know it's a monster. But the thing is, this feat looks quite easy opposite to his expectation. However, the next moment, he sees another entity inside the dungeon that looks like a ghost of some previous life wrestler. This guy in a weird costume claims that it's foolish for our dude to be somewhere called the Adventurer's Grave. As the stone statue is coming towards him in anger, he decides to look cool and fearless, and claims that the only thing that is foolish is this stone statue's costume. After jumping high in the air, and this statue is about to take out our guy, but he dodges just in time. After looking at his flat face caused by the fall to the ground, he concludes that his body must be solid. To avoid the damage, the statue is clever enough to slide towards him. He is running from the enemy while the octopus complains about him running and not doing anything. At the last moment, when the stone ghost is going to get him, which he dodges, causing the ghost to tackle to the wall. To sense his intention, his son has already warned him not to use it as a shield. He explains that he is dodging the attack in order to observe the statue's tactic, Besides, he doesn't have enough points to fight with him. At that, he earns the title of the Weak from his son, who also urges him to fight as he doesn't want to be hit by this ghost. At the very next moment, our guy has a big smile on his face like he has some plan but isn't sure about his calculations regarding it. But he knows one thing, that he can use his speed. With that, he uses his skip skill in order to outpace the stone statue, which resulting in him hitting the stone ghost in a vital part. Afterwards, the system congratulates him for using a skill whose description he didn't bother to read. They were amazed to see it work in his favor. Besides, our dude also gets another weird achievement. On the other side, the status is ready to attack him again. To observe its moves, he uses both skip and fireworks slap one after another in order to get a larger effect. To see the impact of the combination of both skills, he uses the skip skill several times. However, the stone ghost seems like a masochist who is quite enjoying the attacks from our dude. He even feels refreshed after being hit so many times, as he has seen something similar after a long time. At that moment, he claps both of his hands, which makes our player nervous because the knight also says something like this. He ponders whether there is any backstory regarding his skill. He even remarks that this stone statue is not that strong, which raises a protest from Kraken, who points out that he is going to be killed by statue's strength. Ignoring his son's worry, he lands on the ground and expresses his curiosity to know about the hidden job. While attacking it with his fists, the adventurer asks whether he has a hidden class job. With that, he remarks that he thought that it was a dead trend, but now he is going to end the legacy of the hidden job with our dude while showing him the grand sword that is equal to his size. While taking an onion out of his pocket, he finally declares that he will use his mind after being cornered by this annoying statue. The enemy is rushing towards him while challenging him to put everything into the fight. He uses the skip skill and dodges this attack, and the next moment he is blocking his opponent's attack with his onion sword. At that, our dude warns him to watch his step. However, the stone statue is quite baffled to see something in our hero. Meanwhile, Doogie thinks that even as a level 50, the enemy should be different. Not only this, he has now observed the fighting pattern of his opponent, so he is sure of his skill now. At that, he uses his arsenal skill on his sword and tries to attack him. Seeing him attack like this, the enemy has a smug expression on his face, as he is expecting something like this from this new candidate for a hero. With that, Ghost used his giant sword to attack our dude with all his might, which he counters with his numerous skips. The statue compliments him, saying he has become faster and sharper thanks to his skip skill. Then, there is a big clash between them, but no one has the upper hand. However, our hero has something in mind as he uses Wild Swing for 4 continuous slashes. This is the level 99 technique in which he uses all of his force. Consequently, to the utter shock of the stone statue itself, it is cut into many pieces. Afterward, he claims that it is his power as the All-Wisdom Warrior, which prompts a compliment from his son about how cool he looks. He then turns to his audience and tells them that because of his newfound skill, he can use Wild Swing 4 times now, compared to the last time. With a weird laugh, he also suggests his audience to beat the bosses like he is doing while observing their fighting patterns and using the skill accordingly. He adds that he is going to create more content about the so-called All-Wisdom Warrior in the future and urges his audience to like and subscribe. But before he can say any more, his system interrupts him. He is informed that unknown stacks have been accumulated, and he also gets 1 point to the hero talent after completing the quest of the adventurer's grave. After looking at his screen, he concludes that this point system has something to do with his requirements to become a hero. Suddenly, he is startled to hear someone interjecting by agreeing with him. The voice adds that this is the way to test him in order for him to become a hero. This is the same old talkative man who comes out from the rock maybe. Then he starts to laugh while launching into his rant about how he has already seen the hero talent in Doogie when he listened to his story for 2 days. Besides, he also mentions his successful quests. Afterwards, he complains loudly about not getting out of the rock. On the other hand, they are terrified to see this old man there. After a while, the old man comes out from the rubble and starts his babbling again about how good Doogie and his ambition are and how he has got them. With an annoyed expression, he thinks about how he could not use his 3-line summary skill on this NPC, so he has no choice but to skip it. After skipping, the old man is still babbling about the information regarding the adventurer's grave and incidents involving some warrior. He skips again, and after a number of skips, the old man is chatting like this for 77 hours. After witnessing this, the little octopus is grateful for his dad's skill. He is baffled to know that it has been 77 hours already. It means the conversation is completed. Now, as a reward, the system has created a 3-line summary of the ranting of the old man, in which he is informed that the quest of the adventurer's grave was for testing him as a hero, and if he failed, his account will be deleted for 1 year. To read this, he is baffled and wondered when the old man says these things during these 77 hours. On the other side, the old man asks whether he likes to accept his request or not. Now again, the dude has no idea what this quest is about. Anyway, he decides to accept it because he doesn't think it will be different from other quests. Besides, he can also make video content of this contest. After accepting it, the old man informs him that this place is movable, so he might not find it here next time. So it is better to check his inventory to have an item for finding this place. He might be talking about the seed he has before. At the end, he also deadpans that even though this old man is inside the stone statue, but our player doesn't defeat him but the statue itself. Then he leaves while telling him to complete the quest quickly. After he leaves, our ever-impatient hero takes a sigh of relief to get rid of his talking. Kraken asks about his reason for accepting the request even though he hates that old man. He responds that it is because his container is bigger with limited items as a skipped warrior, so he doesn't have a choice but to beat the bosses in order to level up, which amazes the Kraken. With a grumpy expression, he decides not to be too serious in order to not bore his viewers. Moreover, he needs to edit the blabbering of the old man. At the next moment, they see the portal opening in front of them for the next location. Before they can enter, they notice it is raining rubble on them. The dungeon is going to fall down. With a scared expression, he realizes that this is the reason the freaking grandpa left earlier. Then he rushes toward the portal, determined to give him a lesson next time. Meanwhile, on the surface of the adventure grave, everyone is running as the ground is going to collapse. Among those blue guys, there is a blondie who looks like another player. He is muttering about the unexpected flood and avalanche in different places of the game. Now he is experiencing an earthquake and sinkhole. His nickname is Investigator with a level 150 item. Besides, he is a jobless person with a job level of 10. Unlike our main character, this side character has thoroughly read everything regarding this game, but is still astonished to see the incident in front of him because he hasn't seen anything like this before. True to his nickname, he concludes that there must be some secret behind these natural disaster incidents. However, in the next moment, he is shivering with fear and decides to read the narrative over again before moving ahead. Meanwhile, our hero and his adopted cute son reach at next location. With a sigh of relief, he expresses his gratitude that even though they are hardly saved from death, they are still not facing natural disasters that can increase his debt. To listen to his words of relief, the system interrupts him as his typical enemy and informs him how the nearby village is facing an earthquake and sinkhole because of the collapse of the dungeon. Not only this, but because he is the one who is causing natural disasters everywhere. He has earned another title as the Natural Disaster Master, which is increasing his bad reputation. He starts yelling after reading all of this because not a single incident has been caused by him except the fire. Meanwhile, his son points out that he has been hearing strange sounds coming from somewhere, and he should focus on that instead of ranting. He looks at the small cottage and comments this must be the haunted house of the boss monster, as they are always near them. He moves forward to get a hint from the house. He starts checking the door, while hoping to find some hidden mechanism to open it. However, our impatient hero becomes impatient again and burns down the house with his arson skill, which leaves his son baffled. With a dramatic expression on his face, he states how precious his time with his subscribers is. So he skips the whole burning process. In the next moment, he finds himself standing in front of a number of stone heads. He looks around and wonders whether Medusa is going to be the boss this time because of the existence of the statues. The next moment, the heads start to move and get a little closer to him, which makes his son sweat with tension. So he tries to console his son by taking out his weapon and getting ready to fight off the statues in order to break them. But the next moment, as if they understand his intention, they start to glare at him. Afterwards, it's revealed that these statue heads are not heads at all, but the fingers of a giant statue monster on whose hand he is standing now. After realizing the situation, our guy is left quite terrified. With a scared expression, he realizes that this time it's going to be quite a big challenge. He asks to Stone Monster the reason of fighting with him. On the other hand, the monster answers him that it has come for his test, which prompts a comment from our dude that it has a bad smell. Not only this, the monster's small sentences make the wind blow stronger in our guy's face, pushing him backward. Even his son complains to him to cover the mouth of the statue, and he also agrees with him as the smell is too much to bear. He even comments that its breath feels like the reek of onions, so it should just shut its mouth. On the other hand, unfazed by their discomfort, the giant stone monster continues saying that it is going to test his courage while closing its hand around Doogie. This leaves him terrified, as being crushed by rocks has nothing to do with courage. The next moment, he is ready to escape from the grip of the monster and uses his skip skill for this purpose. Now, after a grip, he runs on its arms with full speed, while his son asks about the nature of the stone monster, noting that they are neither superconductors nor slick. He shows his lack of knowledge by telling him that they will know once the skill window shows up. As it is waiting for the cue, the skill window opens, informing him that he has acquired another skill called Superconductor Step, which will allow him to cover a large distance with longer strides while floating in the air. The next moment, he starts to float with his larger steps while thinking that no one is going to appreciate his hard work for this. Now he rushes to the monster's front and attacks it with a fireworks slap, albeit being uncertain about whether it is going to work or not. But it doesn't cause any damage to the large monster, who nonchalantly comments on how noisy our guy is. My guy is about to get an epic jump from the giant monster, but it is so big that it takes him a long time to get far away from its grip. Then the monster is ready to crush him like he is nothing but a tiny little annoying mosquito. With the monster moving, he is terrified and cornered in one of its palms, and the very next moment, the giant monster claps both of its hands. Fortunately, Doogie comes out from the palm and remarks that this is how insects feel. While trying to crush him with its hands, the stone monster comments on how absurd this situation is, stating that our guy is not worthy of becoming a hero. On the other hand, the so-called hero grips the arms of the monster like he is clinging to dear life. He is quite terrified of being dead meat with one shot from the enemy, no matter how mighty his all-wisdom warrior title is. He then tries to move his feet fast to use the superconductor skill, but he doesn't activate it as his feet are not on the ground. Meanwhile, the monster slaps its arm where our hero is clinging, but fortunately he jumps before he can get crushed. While in midair, he uses one of his skills, Fishing Hook, and uses his buddy's tentacles to grab the monster's body, and finally lands right on the monster's back. He doesn't know how to defeat the monster, as it is his first time confronting something like this. Besides, he grips his little octopus again, which makes said octopus both terrified and irritated. He tells him that he is going to change his tactic and aim for earthen pot. With that, he takes out his onion, planning to attack it from inside, as the outside is too solidified to break through. Kraken asks whether he thinks that it would be that simple since it is a hero test. He replies that it won't hurt to try, and the rest they will see. He flies in the air and takes his onion. He then plans to change the weapon types of the onion, so he starts praising it by calling it a smooth and shiny head, as well as cute. Then he uses the skip skill, and it seems like the onion kind of likes his compliment and starts to evolve. Now this onion becomes an explosion of a stink bomb, which he can use only once. His son complains loudly about him making everything stinky during his fight while closing its nose. However, the expression of our guy is quite comical as he stupidly thinks that praising the onion would make it the spear, because things become better when praised. With frustration and feeling cheated, he starts to show how he had planned to stab to blind the monster with his onion spear. Anyway, he throws it in frustration, and to his luck, it enters the monster's nose. The very next moment, the stone monster seems like it is in a lot of pain. With a stunned expression, Doogie thinks that he is not expecting this reaction. Afterward, it becomes unbearable for the monster to bear the stink, and its head explodes from the smell of the onion. On the other hand, our dude with his little octopus is thrown into the air with the force of the explosion while complaining to his skill window, which didn't bother to tell him that this onion would explode. He then uses the skip skill, which is agreed upon by his son for the first time. After a while, with great effort, he finally lands on the ground and looks at the monster with anticipation, as it doesn't seem like the quest has ended with a single explosion. The next moment, several of its limbs separate from its body, and the onion is thrown closest to him. He first doesn't understand how it is still intact, but then he remembers the words of the old man, and realizes that this old man is hinting at something, or he himself is a hint. Now he looks at the next threat in front of him in the form of stone monster limbs, which have formed in a numbers of creatures, and does not understand how it has become a robot union this time. What do you say? How is our veteran streamer going to tackle this new challenge with his skip skill?